Breton Lane in Huntington Beach looks like the perfect suburban retreat. Homes sit quietly next to the Kettler Education Center, a small administrative building for the local school district. But that quiet property line is the proposed site for a 7,500 square foot industrial maintenance and operations building. Here is a photograph of the actual site as it looks today. Notice the heavy utility vehicles and equipment parked right behind the chain-link fence. The district has actually been running a noisy, unpermitted maintenance yarn out of this exact parking lot since 2018. Usually, a project like this triggers a review under the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. This is the state environmental review process explicitly designed to protect residents from industrial intrusion into their neighborhoods. Neighbors expected the city to use this process to protect their property line. Instead, the district leveraged the CEQA framework to declare themselves legally untouchable. At the Planning Commission, the district's primary defense was a calendar. They claimed the 35-day legal window to challenge their CEQA exemption had already closed. This created a regulatory vacuum. The district argued that because the clock ran out, the city's hands were tied and the public was permanently locked out of the review process. The district publicly points to their transparency and community involvement, yet they rely heavily on a strict procedural technicality to avoid answering direct concerns from the neighbors. You have to ask how a public agency can successfully use a short 35-day legal window to hide an 8-year zoning violation from both the city and the public. During public testimony, the project architect claimed the district chose to bypass the Division of the State Architect, or DSA, so they could go through the city process to be a, quote, good neighbor. This email from DSA Regional Manager Ron LaPlante tells a different story. The text highlighted here shows the DSA explicitly disclaimed jurisdictional authority over this building because it does not house students. Let's look at California Government Code Section 53094, the law dictating when a school district can bypass local zoning. As you can see highlighted, this exemption only applies to classroom facilities. Because the maintenance yard is an industrial support building and not a classroom, the district is legally mandated to comply with local city zoning and obtain a conditional use permit. The good neighbor narrative is manufactured spin. The district was legally cornered into the city permit process after the state rejected them. The district's CEQA consultant testified that the project qualified for a Class 3 exemption, a rule meant for the construction of small structures. To understand this exemption, look at this diagram of a CEQA baseline. The baseline is the legal starting condition of a site. It starts at a 0 point of legal use, and from there, regulators measure the actual environmental damage a new project will cause. Here is the cheat. The district claimed their illegal industrial operations were existing. By filling that zero space with unpermitted activity, they artificially raised the baseline floor to hide the true environmental impact the new building will bring. CEQA contains an unusual circumstances exception. This rule prevents exemptions for projects placed in sensitive or incompatible contexts. Placing an unpermitted industrial yard squarely inside a residential zone triggers this exact exception. That legally disqualifies the project from the exemption the consultant claimed. A government agency cannot use its own illegally operating facility as the legal foundation to exempt itself from state environmental review. This timeline tracks how the district played the clock. In November 2023, they quietly filed their notice of exemption. That filing started the 35-day countdown for the public to challenge the decision. But look at the gap. The timeline stretches all the way to April 2024 before the district submitted the actual permit to the city. That is a massive void between the expiration of their CEQA window and the first time the public or the city actually saw the permit submission. There is a legal doctrine called equitable tolling. It pauses legal clocks when a public agency hides critical information or misleads the public. The district cannot enforce a challenge clock against its neighbors while simultaneously hiding the project paperwork from the very city department required to review it. The shell game works like this. The district told the state the city was in charge, and then turned around and told the city a state exemption made the project untouchable. A 35-day procedural clock does not erase a zoning violation, nor does it override the specific requirements of the California Government Code. Accepting this logic allows any agency to self-exempt, hide the paperwork, and bypass local laws entirely. That sets a dangerous citywide precedent for Huntington Beach. As seen in this expert environmental opinion submitted for the record, the City Council has the authority to intervene during the May 5 appeal. they can reject this invalid notice of exemption and demand a full environmental review. The statute of limitations exists to protect a legal and transparent process. It was never meant to protect a regulatory shell game.